Hello, BookTube. Recently on this channel, for reasons that utterly surpass me, we reached 17,000 subscribers. That is a mind-boggling number. And every time we've reached a milestone like this, I've put out a call for questions, for Q&A video. It's become kind of a tradition on this channel. I always expect that I won't get any questions because I talk about myself all the time, and I also have done in the past live streams where anything is fair game. But I was bombarded with questions. So I copied them all over. I pasted them all over into a Google document, but I haven't looked at them. So that's the process of how I got to. We're going to go through these now. I want to give just the usual disclaimers. I'm going to read off these questions and answer them in 30-minute blocks until we get to the end. And because I copied the question over, and because I'm not all that tech savvy, if I dropped your question, it is not fiendish censorship. It is not lizard people. It is not the Illuminati. It's just that I made a mistake, that I missed your question. So, A, feel free to ask your question in some future Q&A, and B, if you want to ask me, why did you censor my question? Effing don't. Don't ask me that question. The question itself is an insult, so don't do it. I am telling you why your question is not here if it's not here. Anyway, I've got them on the iPad here, so let's, now that we've had a contentious throat clearing, let's get right to it. And one other thing here that is true now that wasn't true the last time we did these. YouTube is now identifying literally everyone on the site with an @ sign, with a handle, which to my aged eyes makes that hard to read people's names, so I'll do my best. I think those of you who ask your questions, you'll know when your question is asked. So the first one is from IndieAtmin420. Are there any conservative writers of the past 50 years you're a fan of? I'd want you to specify what you mean by conservative, but if I guess what you mean by conservative, then sure. William Buckley would be an obvious example. George Will, when he has been on his game, would be another obvious example. Charles Krauthammer, when he's on his game. The problem, as I keep mentioning in that phrase, is that conservative writers who are conservatives first and writers second have the same fault as liberal writers who are liberals first and writers second, which is they're not always on their game. They're mostly not on their game. They're mostly just hitting for the team. I have no interest in reading that. It will never be good. So when these writers are on their game, I like them. That's the Holy Trinity, of course, but I could name others. Richard Schwartz, you once told me you would never reach 10,000. How can I trust you? It's not my fault. It's not my fault. I did say this channel would never reach 10,000 subscribers. How was I to know? There were so many lonely cat people out there. It's not my fault. You can still trust me. We will never reach 18K. Never. India Man 420 is back again. How did you learn to speak so extemporaneously and fluidly about all kinds of topics with next to no or oh, I forgot to mention? I would imagine you've never mangled a joke. I have plenty of those conversational placeholders. And I have plenty of those. If I have fewer of them than another person, it's only because I love to talk about books. I have been talking and writing, organizing my thoughts about books for a very, very long time. Could be. I'm not sure that I have fewer of them than most people do. I think that my normal speech that is not part of conversational placeholders like that just tends to be more dramatic. So it's more easily memorable. It more easily blocks out the filtering devices. And as far as never mangling a joke, you're very close. You're very, very close. I have Irish heritage, 100%, on both sides, going back to Brian Boru, going back forever, going back as long as there has been an Irish identity. That's all there is. There's never been anyone else. No one's ever got over the wall. And that means two things. One is that I'm not all that fond of actual jokes where you give the setup and then you give a punchline. If that makes any sense. An actual formal joke is what non-funny people use in order to wade in the kiddie pool of humor. So I can tell, I know some jokes, I can tell them. And I don't mangle them. You're right. But the main thing I don't mangle. The main thing that you've touched upon here is funny stories, extemporaneous or otherwise. Funny stories we do not mangle. Absolutely not. And we don't. They don't come off to no effect either. You will laugh. But a lot of that stuff is completely extemporaneous. I have been told by people that I am very funny just extemporaneously in conversation, that I am fairly funny, fairly enjoyable person to talk with. I don't know if that's Irish or not, but I just wanted to make the little distinction there because I don't really tell jokes. I make fun all the time. I draw out the humor of things all the time and harp on it and remember it and elaborate on it, but jokes, not really. The joke that I always used to use to illustrate that would be one that I learned a long time ago. Why did the monkey fall out of the tree? Because it was dead. I know. I know. It's about as good as I get with actual canned jokes. Raspberry, what was your favorite music when you were growing up? Dexy's Midnight Runners. If we see you in public, at the Brattle, are you implying that you'll never see me in public anywhere else? Should we say hi? Oh, of course you should. Absolutely. That's actually happened to me. Unbelievable. For a crapulent old man who sits on his fainting couch all day and takes strangers through his mail, unbelievably, people have recognized me from these videos at the Brattle and walked up and said hello. And I've disturbingly heard from the folks at the Brattle that some people don't have the nerve to do that and wait until I'm gone and go up to the Brattle staff and say, hey, was that? Don't be that person. Absolutely. I'm a lonely old shut-in. Come right up and say hi. We'll take a now iconic picture. Now, at least 100 people have done this. A now iconic picture of the two of us, my arm draped over you, with the Brattle sign in the background. Your photo album is not complete without a picture like that. And maybe, schedules being what they are, and you not having some sort of fake allergy, you come back here for wine and calzones. No. The kind of YouTuber that says guys, and claims that they love their fans, but actually would call out a SWAT team if you came within 100 feet of them. I am not that. I am, if anything, the creepy excess of the reverse of that. I want you all to come here for wine and calzones. Certainly I want you all to meet me at the Brattle. As long as you understand when we meet at the Brattle that we're there for the books. I'm not going to ignore the sale carts out in the lot because you want to tell me stories. We're going to have to do both. That's all there is to it. And a large number of times, 65% of the time that I've gone to the Brattle with someone that I've met through this channel, that is so elementarily understood that we talk and chat until we get to the sale lot, and then we just go our separate ways and don't talk at all until we're done. Classic book people. But yes, absolutely. Come up and say hi. What do you eat for breakfast? Usually it's an everything bagel, but I say usually, but I usually don't eat breakfast. I usually don't eat breakfast. If I sleep at the end of my reading night, if I sleep, or even if I don't, I don't know how this is going to sound non-hokey. But it's true. And surely that saves it at least a little from the hokey content that you usually get on BookTube or YouTube that isn't true. When the sky starts to brighten, when the night birds start to give way to the chorus of day birds, when traffic starts to increase just a bit, and it has that particular tenor of traffic that is headed into the city for work. In other words, when the day is just about to start, this is going to sound very hokey, but in that moment, whether I slept or not, I feel so incredibly eager to get about another day on this incredible planet, in this one and only life that I'm getting. I feel so incredibly eager to do that. That I usually just jump right into it. I'm eager I'm eager to walk Frida, but I have to wait because she's going to sleep. She sleeps late. My little girl is not a morning person at all. The last time I tried to get her up at 5:30 in the morning, I got a look you wouldn't want to show to your worst enemy. But eventually she is going to wake up, and even before she does, long before she does, I can get lots of stuff done right there in bed. I can't move when she's there, not because she's cuddled against me or on top of me. She doesn't really do that, but because she does not want me not to be there. But after that, once she's up and about and we're moving, I'm usually so eager to get about the day What do the overnight emails look like? What are we doing for the constantly rotating roster of deadlines? What do we want to do today? Even what kinds of conversations do I have with my imaginary booktube friends? I'm usually so eager to get about all of that that I don't usually have breakfast. I know that people say it's the most important meal of the day, but that's usually because they're characterizing it as a place where you gain the energy that you will need to go about your day. But I don't do anything, so I don't really need that. Usually I wait until midday, so it's not really breakfast. Coffee or tea, neither one. If you couldn't have a dog, what other kind of pet would you have? Well, it'd probably have to be a pretty short-lived pet, because I don't think I'd want to be around if I couldn't have a dog. I don't have any idea. I don't have any experience, really, with pets of any other kind. The only other kind of pet that I've ever lived with for any length of time was an armadillo. And he was fairly good company. He was... I don't know how many times that's going to happen. That's the same person. There's a gigantic stretch of blocks, and he just does the rounds. And I have Googled it, and I have asked around, and I'm told that if I were to string a nearly invisible string of razor-sharp piano wire across the road for the moment when he gets here, and pull it up so that it's right at throat level, I might be arrested. So I don't do that. But anyway, if I would hate to think of an eventuality in which I couldn't have a dog. But if I couldn't have a dog, I don't know, maybe a cat. And finally, what Boston area bookstore, used or new, that's now closed, do you miss the most? It was a shop called Goodspeeds. And I miss everything and everyone about it very much. Jack Mac PW, TRIMC, pointed me to your channel, and I've been soaking up your video in many spare... Okay, this isn't Twitter, so I have no idea what that abbreviation means. You don't have a word limit. You could actually write out what you want to say. I've been soaking up your videos in many spare moments in the last couple of weeks. Thanks for all the great recommendations and rants. You're welcome, but what's this spare moments business? Steve takes priority. Steve comes first. Your adamant love of reading has got me finally 100 pages out from finishing Gravity's Rainbow. So appreciate the spiritual kick up the ass. Oh my, 100 pages from the end of Gravity's Rainbow. I'm curious to know. I shouldn't be asking the questions because that prolongs these videos. I'm curious to know, now that you're almost done, do you get the feeling you're going to reread it? I'm always curious to know when people get to the end of Gravity's Rainbow if they have that feeling. So cues, but you could write questions. You don't have a character limit. What concerns / excites you most about the current direction of book publishing? TikTok, obviously. What books have you struggled most finishing, and do you believe readers should power through a work considered essential if it's really dull / grating on them? I have never struggled to finish a book. Books are dumb. Most of them are dumb. So I've never struggled to finish a book. Some of them are not dumb. Some of them are extremely dense, so they will take me time. But that's not the same thing as struggling. Modern Chinese Thought, or there's a new biography of Zhou Enlai that they're layered and complex, and they involve a lot of ancillary reading, but not struggling. And as to the second part of that question, readers should not power through at all. Not unless you want to. But if you don't, if you want to, for whatever reason, you want to knock off this mountain, you are hoping it'll get better, book-related things like that, if you want to do it for those reasons, fine. But if you're powering through a book completely joylessly because you have some Protestant reservation against not powering through a book, or because you think it's somehow virtuous to read a thing all the way to the end, don't do that. Deprogram yourself from those attitudes. Because that you only have very little time to read. You should not be wasting it. The whole job of a book is to make you want to read it. If a book isn't doing that, it's a bad book. It might not be bad in the ontological sense. It might be bad just for you at the moment. But it is still a bad book. So don't. Absolutely don't power through. What makes you go out of your way to watch a film / TV show? Well, I was going to say giant sharks and only giant sharks, But now apparently it's blood and viscera. I don't know how many times I've watched Boy Kills World. So it could be either one of those. And if you were asked to run a publishing house, what 5 novels would you seek to reprint and why? I wouldn't take the offer. I wouldn't go anywhere near the contemporary publishing world. Not at all. Then we have Unspotted, or Unpotted, has a gigantic block, 1,000 words. I thought I mentioned brevity when I was laying down the conditions for this. I discovered your channel a few months back and shared it with my family. Wasn't that nice of you? There are many of us, and you have become popular. So we're probably 90% responsible for your last 900 to 1,000 subscribers. Oh, although half of them are still primary school or younger, many read the books they find interesting, from mysteries to westerns to romances. Your library tours are invaluable to us. Oh my, how incredibly nice. That's incredibly nice. I'm telling you that you do good works, and this works for us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please pass along my thank you to your entire family of losers. It's my honor that I am popular among them. Now that the ass-kissing is out of the way, on to a few questions. It's not just a few questions, pal of mine. It's 1,000 words. Number 1, did you become a reader naturally, or do you attribute it to your rigorous schooling? Neither one. I attribute it to one teacher, one particular teacher, who opened my eyes to the fact that reading was a live thing, a living thing, that it wasn't just something that you do to make sure the receipt is right, that, or an instruction manual of some kind or other, that it was a living thing, an amazing thing, the greatest, funnest thing you can do. So it would be that one teacher. Then question number 2, do you like contemporary gay romance, commonly referred to as male/male books, more than straight romances? I remember you read Gordon Merrick, but his books are decades old. Well, not as a category. I wouldn't make a sweeping declaration here about liking or disliking as a whole category. I have noticed that contemporary M/M romances, gay fiction, isn't usually as good as contemporary straight fiction. I don't know if that's just because with the contemporary straight fiction, the modern romances, I'm reading more practiced authors. A lot of the MM novels that I read are indie published that I get through your daily book deals sites. And a lot of them are not all that good. They seem to just want to get you to the bedroom, those bedroom scenes. That doesn't really do anything for me. I don't think it really does anything for anyone. Not what's on the page. Just I may be giving an unfair advantage to straight romances by reading better authors in them. But I'm nothing against contemporary gay romances. I'm not going to use their stupid nomenclature, but I have nothing against them. I read a lot of them. I just, very seldom do they knock my socks off. Very seldom. Although I just did read one that I thought was quite good, Henry, which wasn't even indie. It was a mainstream publisher. Number 3, are you able to overlook poor writing, or does it just ruin the experience and the story as it does for many of us? I am able to overlook it, yeah. Especially if I'm just reading for pleasure, of course. If I'm going to read critically either way. I'm going to notice that it's poor writing either way, and I'm going to notice why and how it's poor writing. But if I'm reading it just for fun, if I'm reading some science fiction novel, an Edmund Hamilton Captain Future story, I'm going to notice the poor writing, but I'm not going to care. I would care if there's any chance that I'm going to write about it critically, talk about it critically, anything like that. But otherwise, no. And quite a bit of the free book, ebook indie stuff that I get for gay fiction or mystery or science fiction or post-apocalyptic fiction, very popular. Quite a bit of that stuff is very soup can label level. It's just, here's what happened, and then here's what happened next, and then here's what happened next. And I, the author, am not making any effort at all to do anything with this prose. Or your expectations as a reader. I'm not doing anything like that. I don't want to do anything like that. That kind of writing, I was going to say that kind of writing opens the door for infiltration by AI, but as far as I know, that kind of writing is done by AI. Now, it'd be very easy to duplicate. With just a human proofreader, you could do it in 5 minutes. You could have an entire trilogy in 5 minutes if you just have a human proofreader go through the mistakes that AI still makes. But generally speaking, I can, and I can even get enjoyment out of it. If you are not able to overlook bad writing, you are not going to enjoy Edgar Rice Burroughs. Let's make sure that Michael K. Vaughan is out of the room. But if you're not able to overlook bad writing, you're not going to be able to enjoy most of the pulp writers that I love. So yeah, I can overlook it. Question number 4, because it's half an hour. We're still in this block of questions. Will you publish a book of your favorite reviews? It's entirely likely. Question number 5, will you consider a daily segment called Books I Read Last Night with very short opinions and or recommendations? It wouldn't have to be more than 5-10 minutes, and many of us are quite curious as we routinely read a book every night, then group text our thoughts in the morning after sleeping on it. Well, not literally, but sometimes. Thank you for your time and consideration. Well, no, I probably wouldn't do a Books I Read Last Night because I don't know what I'm going to write about. Most of the reading that I do every night is new releases, forthcoming releases. And I don't know what I'm going to write about, and I'm sorry if it's old school from the print newspaper world, but it's absolute anathema to me to preview something that I'm going to write in a different venue. I wouldn't do that. But you mentioned a group chat. If I'm already quasi-adopted by your enormous family, there's no reason I couldn't be part of that group chat. Now, is there? Anyway, the active mind is here. Dude. Got 2 for you. As the medium of form of writing has evolved over time, epic poem to lyrical to novel to maximalist novel, do you think technology and culture has led potentially greater literary minds to write tweets, substacks, and or video/TV series rather than books? The final element, the writing for the sprawling entertainment industry, which used to be just TV and movies, now it's the whole spectrum of cable and online drama, YouTube dramas. Probably, of all the alternatives that you give me, that's probably the one that is most likely to have subsumed a literary mind or two. But I think literary minds are largely drawn to this particular kind of expression that's now 600 years old. I think they're largely drawn to that. They might realize that there's money elsewhere, that there's money in the entertainment industry, but I don't think we're losing that many of them. We're not losing them as they go to other venues in order to be great. We're losing them to screens. We're losing them to doom scrolling. It's not that they're taking their talent and going somewhere else. It's that they're never realizing their talent, which can only be realized through daily discipline and work. And what era in human history has been more dedicatedly antagonistic to daily discipline and work than this one? None. None even comes close. None even comes close. That mesmerizing ability that Jim Jones had to work his magic on hundreds of people in the sultry jungles at Jonestown, that required just the right conditioning, that required starvation rations, that required constant work and exhaustion. It required all the prerequisites of cult indoctrination. And people carry that around in their phone all day long, every day, without any Jim Jones. You can't write a novel if that is your world. And I think that's where we're losing these people, not to Netflix. And secondly, do you have a disdain for DFW's nonfiction as well? He's not Kennedy, okay? He's not Kennedy. I'm never going to refer to him as DFW. David Foster Wallace is who active mind means here. A writer that in his extreme youth, active mind has not yet shaken off. No, everything that he wrote stinks. All of it is garrulous, word-drunk navel-gazing. All of it should have been ruthlessly pruned by an editor. Anyway, Chrisam7095, who was or is your favorite book critic? That would be the fiction chronicler for the Wall Street Journal. Nassar84880, congratulations, Steve. No questions this time, but just a note of thanks for all the wonderful videos that you put up every single day. You enrich my life. Thank you. Well, that's very nice. Another person saying I enrich their lives. That's wonderful. To readers it may concern. Who's a booktuber? I'm sure that a lot of you know who to readers it may concern. He did an amazing video about me and about the books that my channel has introduced him to. I cannot express my gratitude enough. It bowled me away. But anyway, my bookshelves have shifted and grown substantially based on your influence. In that sense, you've changed my life. Yes, that's the point that he makes in his video, and it blew me away. It just blew me away. It's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me on BookTube. Number 1, do you ever think about the positive influence as a kind of reader mentor you've had on your viewers, and how does that make you feel? No, I honestly don't. I hadn't really thought about it at all, except in a few isolated cases. I met, as I mentioned earlier, some people meet me at the Brattle. People who watch my channel meet me at the Brattle. I met a young man there. His father was with him and told me, yeah, my son has watched you for all of his quasi-adult education, watched you all through high school. And now he's going to a great college. That is astounding to me. And before, that really stuck with me. That was a wonderful visit at the Brattle, but that detail of it really stuck with me. And your video also stuck with me along those lines. I guess it's a corollary of making videos for a long time, but teacher, mentor? No, I never thought that. No, it gives me pause. It really does. Then question number 2, who or what on BookTube has influenced and changed you most as a viewer? Well, it's not really a who, but definitely a what. Definitely a what, because there are 2 factors going on BookTube. If you're a normal person, if you're not a sociopath, there are 2 things going on BookTube when you watch the same channel regularly. You subscribe to channels, so you will get, it won't just be one video and then you're on to another thing. You'll get new videos from the same person. And the 2 things are, one, I have been confronted over and over again by booktubers mentioning and talking about books that I don't like. Authors that I don't like, trends that I don't like. That's one factor going in this direction. But the factor going in the other direction is that the whole time they're doing that, I'm getting to know them better and better. Which makes it harder to have the first reaction. And that, I have not really gauged how much that has affected my tolerance as a reader. It does not affect my blood-dripping fangs as a critic. But my tolerance as a reader, I think it does affect. I need to really think about that as this year goes on. We're almost at the halfway point of the year. That's when these thoughts start to accumulate for me. Thank you for all the years of wonderful videos. Well, it was my pleasure. As I have often said, I get more than I give from this. Art Hillside, congratulations. I very much appreciate your videos. Well, isn't that nice? Thank you. Pat Tube says, I'm one of the new subscribers here, so you're one of the ones that heaved us over 17K. Thanks a lot. I wanted to ask you, please, do you think graphic novels or popular comic books qualify as literary fiction? No. For example, I've had friends tell me, though I myself have never verified, that Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons has been ranked by some critics in their top 100 novels of all time. It has been. Yeah. I'm not sure based on what criteria. Based on the pretty pictures. I suppose graphic novels seem like a kind of mix between novels and films. I guess the broader question is if genre fiction can be literary fiction. I've always loved both genre fiction as well as literary fiction, but it seems from time immemorial there's been a tension and even outright conflict between what the literati value and what the average person like me values. There has indeed been time immemorial conflict, born out of the least inspired, least muse-driven thing in the world, and that's money. Genre fiction makes money, and so-called literary fiction almost always does not. Especially now, almost always does not. And yet, the purveyors of so-called literary fiction, as I've mentioned many times before, not only are they the most naive and cloistered, the most timid readers in the world, of any kind, but they're also the most arrogant. The 2 should not go together, and yet they do. It's the literary version of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They read almost nothing, and yet they are savagely condescending about all of the literary landscape. Would never read half the genres that exist, all of them, really, except for the few ambassador writers in those genres. In answer to your first question, no, Watchmen is not a novel. It's a graphic novel. It's a series of comic books. The fact that it has words in it doesn't make it a novel. I disagree with blurring categories like that. I've seen it done with Watchmen more than almost anything else. Maybe Art Spiegelman's Mouse. Doesn't mean those things aren't great, but they certainly aren't novels. No. Let's see here. Madman Gone Mad says, 17K subscribers came so quickly, I have not prepared for yet another. What are your thoughts on this obscure writer question? I'm sure we'll get them. I'm sure we will. Do you, on the top of your head, know of any authors famous for their novels whose work of poetry you think is underappreciated? Not off the top of my head, no. The standard stereotypical answer here is Thomas Hardy, but I think his poetry is amply appreciated, so I don't think he would count. So no, not off the top of my head, no. Maybe John Updike. Possibly John Updike. If you take as my position as Holy Writ, as you should, which is that John Updike's fiction is all horrible. He's best known for his fiction, but it's all horrible. Maybe his poetry? His poetry isn't all horrible. Let's stop this installment of Madman Gone Mad, and then we'll move on to the next one.